I invite you to get comfortable for a time of meditation. Just find yourself at home, at peace where you are. And if you arrived this morning without peace on your heart, I want to invite you just to entertain the possibility that without anything external changing, you could leave this sanctuary with peace in your heart, without having to manage, fix, even heal anything in the external world around you. You can find peace within yourself. So we dedicate this practice today to that shift in focus from the outer to the inner, so that all beings may have peace. All beings may know peace is available in each instant, and that we may remember and exercise authority with our spiritual practice. Experiencing peace within. So I invite you to just take 3 deep inhales and exhales. We center ourselves in this moment, moving from the head to the heart. And as we move from the head to the heart, we may feel our bodies become a little heavier, more relaxed. We may feel the shoulders drop as the breathing becomes easy and full. We begin to feel the stillness. Noticing it first through the body and just leaning into it. Allowing the body to become so very still. And just simply being with that sensation of stillness. It's quite a sensation. Feel it in its fullness. Begin to notice how there's almost like a relief from the feeling of movement. We lean into that. And now we allow the sensation to become full within us. As we move our awareness to the stillness of sound. Just noticing now how the body is still. But when we bring our attention to the ears, regardless of sound, there is a stillness there. Beyond the sound, before the sound, underneath the sound, within the sound. Lean into that. A still mind follows a still body. When we quiet the body, and notice the silence, we quiet the mind. Breathe into the spaciousness. Breathe into it like it's the first breath of life. Like it's a magnet drawing us in. As we rest here in the silence. Bringing our awareness back to the heart center. In gratitude for the stillness, the silence, the peace. We allow the sensation of appreciation to fill our being. It's healing the sense of appreciation. It's like watering a plant, like the sun rising to warm the land, like the breeze over the water. And gently as you choose, maybe bringing your hands to the heart center and dropping the breath down to the heart as if we're inhaling and exhaling through the heart itself. By the power of this practice, may all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know God as love and themselves as emanations of this love. May all beings know that we are born blessed and here to be a blessing. And so it is. Namaste. Happy Sunday. We're going to go through all of these books today. Does that feel in line with that meditation? Do you feel some spaciousness? This was heavy. I'm not sure how many hours were put in this week, but it was quite a number if you take all the hours put in by our volunteer team in the office. I know for myself it was 1 9-hour day, a few hours. I mean, maybe 15 to 20 hours. And then multiply that by a whole bunch of people who came in. Mark, Aisha, Linda, Lynn, Beth, Brenda, Phyllis. I could go on and on. Patrice, Robin, Benita. There were a lot of people in the office today. Do you know that it's January of 2024 and we just moved into our new space? Wow. Do you believe that? That we just moved into our new space? We really just moved into our new space. If you're new here, you don't know the history, but we were in another building and in another sanctuary, and we had a move, and the move happened quickly. And we had a 100-year-old church and closets and cabinets and things to go through, and then a whole new space, which was entirely different to go through. And there was a lot going on, and our community rallied and got us there. And it feels like we just arrived. Do you have anything that happens in January to you traditionally in your home, in your being? Is there anything that happens? Like, do you think about your space or your job or your finances or your relationships or how you spend your time? Do you clean your house? Do you think of things you want to stop doing? Think of things you want to start doing? Do you try to eat better? Do you start going to the gym? Anything, raise your hand if something happens to you in January. Think about having more fun. Think about having less work. Whatever it is. Think about spending more time with family. I think part of this is because it's a natural cycle of change, right? It's a natural cycle of shift. And if we are beings that are alive, we know we're alive because we're changing, right? And so in order to embrace the change, we show up for it. And I was noticing not too long ago in our offices, in our community space where you're invited to for the potluck after the service, that, I mean, we kind of knew this. It's not like it was news, but what was news was that we've been there for how long? Does anyone know? 10 months? Yeah. Getting on a year. And there was still unpacking to do. There was still clearing out to do. There was still shift. There was still change. Now, I'm the kind of person, I moved into my house 12 years ago, 13 years ago now, and there are actually places where I still just didn't put anything up on the wall. Like, I just never went back. I, got everything in there, and then, just, I'm done. 12 years later, how about we actually look at what's on all of the walls and figure something out that we like, rather than a girlfriend coming over and putting together a section for me because there was nothing on the walls. Or what I tend to do is, if there is a nail there and a hook, I just stick something on it. So wherever someone else had something on the wall, I now have something on the wall. So what tends to happen is I have a very big wall, and then I have this little tree picture, and there's a hook, so I just go stick it on there. A girlfriend over recently who has an eye for design said, I said, maybe we just need to get rid of these things because it doesn't work. And she said, well, that's because you have a very big wall and a very small item on it. And so this needs to go in like a bathroom or a corner, or a small wall. And she just made a couple of shifts, and I was like, wow, that feels entirely new. But how often do we go about year after year, day after day, relationship after relationship, job after job, spending after spending, doing the same thing, or just doing enough that we're present, but not changing, right? Getting things together just enough that things are functional, rather than really taking an inventory of our investments. How am I spending my time? How am I spending my relationships? How am I investing in my space? How am I investing in my finances? How am I investing in my emotional life? How am I investing in my well-being? And rather than just doing what's easy or what we have the energy to do, looking at things again and taking it to the next level. I think that's what new beginnings are about. I think that's what new years are about, new months. I mean, could you imagine for a moment if we didn't name the months? If they were all just the month? Think for a second. If they were all just the month, this is just the month. In some places it's a cold one, in some places it's a warm one. And next month it's just the month. But no, we give them little fun names. And then we do another category and we give them seasons, so that we can look forward to them, so that we can change, so that we can go along with the change, along with the shift, and get out of the routine enough to wake up. So can we override the tendency to sit for 12 years without really looking around? The tendency to move into our space and then just go, okay, that was done. It was so much fun to go to the next level. And I've wanted to do it for a long time, both in my home and at UVC. But you know what? The energy wasn't there. So we tried a couple of times, but it was pushing. And it was clear that if we push anymore, if I push myself anymore, if we push ourselves anymore, we're going to hit a roadblock. And it's uncomfortable because sometimes things are not how we like them to be. And you fill in the blank on what it is for you today. Is it your relationship? Is it your parenting? Is it your job? Is it your physical well-being and your health and your wellness, your wealth? What is it? And maybe we've tried over and over to make a shift in that area, and it didn't work. So we just stopped trying. This is just how it is with me. This is just how it is with us. Or I'm not even listening. I'm not even looking anymore. I can't even see it. But if I wake up, I can remember, no, I remember what it's like to actually change a pattern and have a new dynamic in a relationship. What if my marriage could have a whole new era to it? A whole new life to it, a rebirth. We are sitting on a gold mine in life all the time. But the energy is not always there for shift. And so we have a tendency in the human condition to get comfortable or comfortable being uncomfortable and to stop trying. We stop trying with relationships. We stop trying with marriages. We stop trying with our health. We make assumptions. I remember a friend saying she was going to get healthier after childbirth. Like she, heard all these stories about people and having such a hard time after childbirth. And she was like, I'm going to get healthier. And I watched her do it. And I thought to myself, that can be done. I did not know that can be done. I did not know that you could take your body change at the time of childbirth and all the stuff, all the hormones and everything that goes into it, and you could come out of it better. And I did it as an old lady, but I was like, darn it, I've seen it happen. I'm going to do it too. Yeah. And I did. I still think my best figure was right after I gave birth, Things can be done. Things can be done. Things can change. Things can shift. Even when we think they can't. Even when we've tried and tried and tried again, and maybe the energy wasn't there before, but it's a new day, it's a new year, it's a new you. Part of the unity way of life and part of the unity practice is to take everything as a spiritual practice. That's the big things, the hard things, and it's the little things, the light things. Like unpacking a space. Like making a subtle shift in your own life. And doing things spiritually first. When we fail to do that, and we fail to look at everything spiritually, and I mean everything, not to the point of mental abuse, but everything spiritually as a spiritual practice and a spiritual foundation, and say, what's going on here? We find that things aren't always what they seem, yeah? A health diagnosis isn't always what it seems. There is more to it. There is opportunity there. There is insight there. There's transformation there. Clearing up your space isn't just what it is. Has anyone done a spiritual practice around cleaning up your space? Or getting better home habits? It is unreal, isn't it, how much you learn about yourself? I mean, people that go into our homes to take care of us, like physical therapists, they know. They walk into your space, they walk through your garage or into your space, and they know what's going on in your mind. They know what mental health issues you have. They know what attachment issues you have. They probably could even write up what family issues you have. And then they just work on that knee, getting it a little stronger and leave. But there is an incredible opportunity when we're willing to look at things spiritually. For seeing the metaphysical layers underneath things, the mystical layers, for seeing our transformation and our growth. And all too often, we go through the motions. We change the job, we hit the gym, we get rid of stuff in our house, right? Without listening, without getting quiet, without saying, what's the real transformation that happens here? And when we do that, we lose a great opportunity because it comes around again, because we haven't really experienced the change in consciousness. Because the change in consciousness is where it's at. That's the only real shift, is the change in consciousness. So the outer changes are things that are expressions of the change in consciousness. So if you want to do something once and have to do it over again with different people or in different spaces, well, then just take the action. But if you want to transform your life, if you want to learn and to grow and to shift and to become new, as Scripture says, to be born again in a new spiritual way, then open up to listening and shift from the inside out and let the external shifts come from the internal transformation. Now we can go all Marie Kondo and you can say, does this bring me joy? Who knows what I'm talking about? That's good. If you don't, it's a show. I haven't actually watched the show, but enough people talk about it that I know it. And my girlfriends have done it to me. Put all my stuff on the bed and said, does this bring you joy? Does that bring you joy? And all I can feel when they do it is like, that brings me attachment and you're trying to take my sweater. And I don't want it to go. If we don't listen deeply to ourselves, we stay the same person that we were. I remember as a young person how incredible it was to have someone give you something nice. Do you remember that? Like, especially if it's something you'd have to spend real money on, like a couch. If you want to do something nice, give a young person a piece of furniture that's nice, right? Like give them a sweater that was nice. Anything that actually costs something. But if we stay in that mentality, what do? We keep holding on to stuff. Now I don't want to get rid of this sweater because it's a nice sweater. Well, 20 years ago it looked nice on you, but now it doesn't. But I might need it. Well, what about these books that you have? Well, I'm a Unity minister. Of course, I need to have You Can Be Healed. And I need to have Myrtle Fillmore, Mother of Unity. And it makes sense that I would have extra copies of Working with God and Christ in You and Myrtle Fillmore, Lighting the Way, and Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters, and the other Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters on that shelf, and the one on that shelf, the one on that shelf, and that shelf. And, Prosperity by Charles Fillmore, and the old Prosperity by Charles Fillmore, and the newer Prosperity by Charles Fillmore that's actually the exact same book. And then there are all of the special things that we get in our jobs that ministers get. Like, I was around the village for a long time when they got rid of books in ministerial school and they put them on a shelf that people could take. And I was here when they went through the archives and they got rid of all the YOU publications from 1930-something. And I was here when the 1924 magazine was let go of, and I got that copy. And I happen to be really good besties with the woman who runs the bookstore, used to run the bookstore at Unity, who had a lifetime of goodies and special Unity nuggets and loves me enough that I'm the person that they came to. And so I have all this stuff. so many things that my bookshelves are toppling over. Flash over to the house and the closet. We just did this little project of getting rid of things, but in a different way. And there's actually space in my closet. And I'm finding outfits that are really me right now that I never even really knew were there because there were so many other things that I wasn't wearing that I couldn't find them. But I have all these books and all this stuff from the archives. And they're mine. And if I put them somewhere everyone can get to them, well, what if somebody took one? Well, they're very old. What if somebody ripped one? What if somebody that's not me wrote in one? Does anyone want Myrtle Fillmore's Mother of Unity? Or an old Charles Fillmore Prosperity? Look, these are just the ones that I brought from home after clearing out the ones from home, so I wouldn't have as much as home. These are not the ones that were on the bookshelf in my office. Now this one, I'm going to show a little attachment here. So this year, for our prosperity class, we're going to do Charles Fillmore Prosperity. Who would like the brown copy and who would like the old, cool green copy? Raise your hand. Okay, so there's one, and there's one. And who would like Myrtle Fillmore, Mother of Unity back there? Yeah. So you know what I did? Well, I did a lot of So, and this could seem simple. There's probably another one in here. Oh, Catherine Ponder. Oh, Myrtle Fillmore Healing Letters. Oh, Lessons in Truth, Your Greatest Power. Oh, that's a good one. And some of them are, mine, so they have a lot of writing in them. But I have been working on this stuff spiritually for a while, right? I don't just go through stuff. I don't just do things, right? If I'm going to stop drinking soda because I want to be healthy, I am going to pray about it. I mean, does that sound silly? No, because you're Unity people. I love it. Like, what's the point in just stopping drinking soda out of willpower? Like, sure, you're going to get a little healthier, but you could die in a car accident tomorrow, and you're still going to eat the Doritos, so it's not going to make you that much healthier that it's going to make a real huge impact on your life, right? But if I want to do it because I want the wellness of my body and I want to look at my patterns and my habits, I pray in something. And what I pray in is like, this is the feeling that I want from that. This is the feeling I get from that. This is the sense I get when I have a cup of caffeine coffee. And I just don't have the same feeling if I don't drink that coffee in that way. I love you too. If I don't look at it deeply, then it's just life, right? It's just life happening. It's just, But when I look at it deeply, it's like, ooh, look at all the layers. So something happened to me, and I can never, when there's a healing, I can never pinpoint something, but I know when the healing has gotten here, and I know that there's like a whole load of stuff that happened before it, whether it's a healing with relationships, whether it's a healing with my actions, whether it's a healing with whatever, finances. It's like, it's usually a longer road than I would choose to take. And then I usually, when I say it was this or it was that, I can't pinpoint it. It's like, oh my gosh, it was this practice, but then it was that, and it was this and that. So I have had a healing recently, and it's one that a lot of people who love me are going to be real grateful that I finally had. And I can't pinpoint where it came from, but it has to do with Jesus and the feeding of the 5,000. So, traditionally, Jesus and the feeding of the 5,000 was that there were a few books in the congregation. There's the loaves and the fish. And then there was like, here's what we've got to feed everyone, right? We got 3 books to feed everyone. Ooh, a really old version of Christian healing. with tape on it. So you've got this. And is this going to feed everyone? No. Now, there are two versions of that story. There's the what was in the story, and then there's the mystical, metaphysical. And there's the what do you do with it. You've got a lot of people to feed, 5,000, plus the women and kids. That's significant. And you've got just a little bit of fish, a little bit of bread. So there's the version where there's a miracle that happens, right? And the miracle that happens is Jesus multiplies it, sends it around, and is like, everybody's fed, and there are 12 baskets left at the end. Extra. 12, metaphysically, by the way, is spiritual completion, like the spiritual amount, like, so it's like a spiritual abundance thing, that there were 12 baskets left over. On the physical planet on Earth, we had that much excess, more than we needed from just this. So there's that, and that's a miracle, and that's a miracle way of reading that passage, and that's great. And then there's the metaphysical. It's like looking behind that and looking at the teachings and looking at the time. Well, at the time, people would bring their own little stash. So who are my foodies that have food in their purses or their pockets right now? That's right. If you don't have any in your life, you're going to want them around if everything goes, Both of my sisters are them. They're always carrying around food. Who has it in their car if it's not in your pocket? That's right. There's more of you. Okay. Who has it anywhere accessible? Who knows where it is? That's right. Okay. All right. So if right now I was like, we're going to have a potluck. Oh, all we have is this book. Say it's a loaf of bread. And we have a conversation. And we don't do it like we're just feeding people. Like, this is not a potluck where we just need to feed the tummies. No one in here right now is just starving for the food. We're starving for the food, right? So what would happen if a spiritual conversation that changed consciousness happened in here? That changed consciousness. That was about the real depth of the practice, the real depth of your heart's desire, the real depth of the healing, right? Not just going through the motions. And we had that conversation. And then we said, let's pass around the baskets of food. What happens? Every little morsel carrier takes their morsels out. They are in love and they are inspired, and they take what they need for themselves and they pass on the rest to everyone else. And at the end, there is spiritually more than enough for everyone. And what happens there is something even more magnificent. Because the food could go to waste, right? If you just leave it there, it could be rotting. One of the things I realized about my Unity books is that it's really nice that I have them and that I have extra copies if I need them and all those gorgeous archives. It's great that I have them. But the last project that we did this week in the office was taking my personal library and upgrading the lending library we have, and then taking my really, really nice library and putting things in the May Rowland room, in the sacred room, so that they could be seen and used by everyone, like little magazines from 1924. So they could be seen and touched. Because can you see that? Can you feel that? Like, I'm alive in this lifetime. How many fingers do I have that can touch all these pages in 365 days every year and those magazines? Can you see it now? This isn't about me having too much stuff. It's not about me not having time to go through and realize there were 5 of those books, but I just didn't have the time to stop. It's about truth and it's about principle, and it's about getting it out to as many people as possible and not sitting there holding on to things that need to be in circulation. Right? It's not about being in lack and thinking, I need something, but I need this, but what if I need it then? And that is the mystical miracle that happened in the feeding of the 5,000. Think if everyone that you knew and everyone on the planet that had a second house or a third house or something like that couldn't use it every other day because they don't have vacation every day. Think if every single person got over the whole, but if someone else uses it, maybe this will break, but if someone else, And what if when I left my house, if I'm going to leave my house for a month, what if I said, does anyone need it? That's the feeding of the 5,000. It's unpacking life to the next level and recognizing what we're here for and getting the good into circulation. Change happens from the inside out. And it's worth it to hold on to this stuff until we get it. It's worth it to work it until we get it. It's worth it to ask and to answer the deeper questions. And sometimes we pray about it, we pray and we pray, do it to me. I had a girlfriend say to me this time, I said, I'm ready to do some stuff again. Moving through some things. This is a new girlfriend. And she said, I think that's important for you to do by yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. But the shift happened. And with that shift are all these other fruits. We're not talking about books, and we're not talking about stuff, and we're not talking about fish, and we're not talking about bread. We're talking about our life force, our life essence. Because there may be something that you've been praying about. There may be something that you've wanted change in or for. And maybe you've tried before and it hasn't come. And the lesson is to keep looking, to keep asking, to keep praying. Not the beseeching prayers like, God, do it to me. But the use me prayers. Do it through me. What is this about my life? What is this about me? Now, on one level, I can credit my mom for the entire thing, because my mom has always been the kind of person that if there is a shelf, there will be 8 million things on it, and if there is a wall, it will be full. And last summer when she came to my house, she used a word that got deep into my soul when she saw my place, which is quite tidy and quite nice, right? It's not a sloppy place. There's stuff. I'm not saying there's not stuff. But she used a word so graciously when she came to my house. With a bit of annoyance in her voice, she said, you got to get rid of all this clutter. Clutter. And it was like lightning bolts through my body as I thought to myself, this woman whose home would suffocate a mouse thinks that I have clutter. In the name and the power of the Holy Spirit, I am healed. I am healed. My life will be spacious like an Airbnb forevermore. Lessons in Truth. Unity's Core Basic by H. Emily Cady. We do not have to beseech God any more than we have to beseech the sun to shine. The sun shines because it is the law of its being to shine, and it cannot help it. No more can God help pouring into us unlimited wisdom, life, power, all good, because to give is a law of God's being. Nothing can hinder God except our own free will. The sun may shine ever so brightly, but if we have, through willfulness or ignorance, placed ourselves or have been placed by our progenitors in the far corners of a damp, dark cellar, we neither get joy nor comfort from its shining. Then to us, the sun never shines. So we have to know nothing of how to get ourselves out of the cellar of ignorance, doubt, and despair. We have known nothing of that. To our wrong thinking, God has seemed to withhold the life, wisdom, and power we wanted so much when we sought God ever so earnestly. The sun does not radiate life and warmth today and darkness and chill tomorrow. It cannot, from the nature of its being. Nor does God radiate love at one time, while at other times anger, wrath, and displeasure from God's mind toward us. I said us because the next word is doth. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can a fig tree bear olive berries? Either a vine figs? God is all good, always love. God never changes, no matter what we do or may have done. God is always trying to pour more of God's self through us into visibility so as to make us grander, larger, fuller, freer individuals. If there is any space or place in our lives where it doesn't feel spacious or free, where we may have tried, spiritually, try again. Namaste.